Governor, have you, or maybe Commissioner, have you decided yet how you're going to deal with the inevitable case when someone actually does test positive? Will that be an automatic shutdown, or do you think you'll have the systems in place in schools where a kid or a teacher could test positive, but students can continue to go to school?
Yeah, the latter. So, look, the first thing I would say is there's a lot to be figured out. So that's why we're going to have our guidance up by next Friday, and that will be, as the Commissioner said, like the minimum guidelines. But a piece of whatever, for the plans for the districts, but a piece of every plan is, what do you do if someone tests positive? What is the plan if there is an outbreak? What defines an outbreak? What we have said for the state is that if we think there are multiple cases, then we want to test everybody within 4 hours, and we have the capability to do that. And that's why we feel it's so important to continue to be able to rely on distance learning, because if a class has to go into quarantine, for example, we don't want any interruption. The name of the game here is no interruption in a children's learning, even if we have these eventualities. So short answer is we don't yet know. That's the point of the next 3 months, to put in place these protocols, and we're going to do it hand in hand with the districts. But we've gotten to a point in managing this virus now where everything we do from here on out, we want it to be a pinpointed, targeted approach, more than like a lockdown.
Governor, what is the effect of collective bargaining agreements that teachers' unions have entered into with individual school districts? Going to a statewide calendar would seem to me to risk changing, well, maybe the Commissioner would want to answer that, but going to a statewide calendar seems to me to risk creating a situation where those agreements are now breached. I mean, the slide that was presented includes, say, Yom Kippur, Eid al-Fitr, but it doesn't say there's no school on those days. But many teachers have a contractual right to such days off. And
no.
I'm sorry.
No, there are holidays. So there are holidays for those calendar days. We checked everyone's calendar, and just so that you know, we worked with the teachers' unions, the 2 state teachers' unions, to develop this calendar. So we've worked collaboratively. So there are days off, there are vacation days in the calendar.
When it says, though, Yom Kippur and Eid al-Fitr, it specifically doesn't say no school. So how are you handling that?
Well, there is no school. So you'll see that when we post it, the days are delineated when there's no school and when there's distance learning. They're in different colors. I don't have the calendar in front of me, but they're in different colors to differentiate. La pregunta fue que qué va a pasar con el contrato de la unión, si ya esos días ya han coordinado, pero nosotros trabajamos con la unión estatal para poder llegar a este acuerdo con el calendario.
So just to confirm, the teachers' unions are on board with this calendar?
Yes, yes. The statewide teachers' union is who we worked with.
To clarify, the days that you listed off each month, was that 1 day of distance learning per month, to clarify?
That is, yes. So we have 9 days, and those are professional development days for teachers, and students will be engaged in distance learning.
Are they mandatory?
Are what mandatory?
The professional development days.
The professional development days are now part of the calendar. So those are the days that have been allocated, and the district can obviously have more, but those are the days that we have agreed to for the entire state. What we've learned during this pandemic has been that we have been able to work across districts. Isn't that amazing? That has been an amazing opportunity for us. So teachers at Newport were able to work with teachers in Cranston. So I think we've done statewide PD. So as we start entering a new era, we have to start thinking out of the box as Rhode Island as one state.
Can you elaborate a little bit on what you foresee as the major challenges for this?
Major challenges. Let's see, we can pick so many. Let's try busing, right? We're going to have to triple our busing routes, right? The CDC is pretty clear on what their recommendations are. So we are looking at what different ways we can actually implement their recommendations, but it is going to require more buses, more runs, staggering start times. We're looking at where kids enter and exit the building. It's up to, it's that level of granularity that we're getting down to, and then providing guardrails for all the districts. The governor mentioned Central Falls, so we're going to do things differently for different districts depending on where they are with their numbers, right? But there's going to be some guardrails that are going to be important for everyone to follow, because as you heard, we're going back to school.
Commissioner, so kind of playing off that, there's obviously going to be an equity concern here, obviously Central Falls versus East Greenwich. How are you going to fund some of the schools like a Central Falls or even in Providence to make sure that they can stay on track with this standardized calendar, even going to distance learning, trying to keep kids in person or just keep teachers healthy, so on and so forth, where the numbers of cases are, confirmed positive cases, are so much higher than others?
Right. Well, that's where, so let me answer that question 3 different ways. So that's why we're looking at these communities, because one of the things that COVID taught us was the inequities, right? And so we used to sweep it under the rug. The rug has been pulled away. We know where the inequities are. We've always known. So when the Department of Health posted the numbers for families of color being higher, Latino families, at the end of the day, it's not because of a race, it's because of the inequities that exist. So your question about, for example, Central Falls or anywhere else, if there is a different approach, then our job is to ensure that maybe the day is longer, maybe that they get more. What we're thinking is more, not less. So we know that there's a problem in education across the board. So we're trying to address that in a way that's equitable, and that, and equitable means giving more to the places that need more. And that's the way that we're looking at it. How can we work with the community to ensure that there is not that disparity, that some districts are going and others are not, but that we're doing more for them so that they can be successful?
So to go off of that, the $42 million in funding, will that be distributed on a need basis, on a population basis? How will that be distributed?
Well, we're working on that right now, so we can let you know the specifics next week, right?
Separate from the funding formula conversation?
Yes, it is separate from the funding formula. This is above and beyond, so that we can actually look at some of the costs. It's going to be expensive, right? We are going to need different type of cleaning. We're going to need sanitizing. We're going to need, hand sanitizer in all the schools. So there's a lot of things that are going to be different.
Teachers who are immunocompromised and who are concerned about their own health returning to the physical classroom, can they still distance teach? Will they have to come back or risk their job? What's the plan there?
So I think we're going to work with the individual cases as they come up. I think what is important for everyone to remember is that we are going to have a hybrid model at some point. We're going to still see cases. And as you heard the governor say, we are not taking our foot off the pedal. We are going to continue to provide instruction. And now that parents, that the sniffles, don't send your kid to school, then and if it happens 3 or 4 times, I know I have kids that get sick very often, so what does that mean? My child continues to learn. So there's going to be a hybrid model, and we'll work with individual cases.
This is slightly unrelated, but we've been hearing from a lot of teachers' assistants and techs who are hearing that they are ineligible to collect unemployment for the summer, even though the same number of jobs aren't going to be available to them and they count on that money. Is there any way, Governor or Commissioner, you can address the fact that they're being told that even though they rely on this income every year, they can't collect for it, even though it's coronavirus related?
It doesn't sound like that.
I hadn't heard that, Kim, so I need to look into that. The eligibility for unemployment and the pandemic unemployment insurance comes to us from the federal government. But I will absolutely look into it and see if there's anything that the state could do to enable that. So let me look into it. But I do want to be clear that these rules come to us from Congress and the federal government, and we follow them. Just to offer my thoughts on both of these questions, I agree about transportation. The question you bring up is something we have to figure out. We know, what have we learned? We've learned this virus is hardest on people who have underlying health conditions and people who are 65 and above. And so we're going to have to take extra precautions to protect people. Do I know today exactly what that looks like? No. Am I committed to figuring it out? Yes. Am I confident that we can do it? Yes. I mean, we don't have all the answers today. I just know that if you told me 4 months ago that we were going to have to do distance learning for 3 months, I would have said, no way, and we figured out how to do it. So I'm confident we'll figure out how to do it. And to that point, so in addition to those two issues, I think the overall thing that I think will be our biggest challenge is not holding on to the old way of doing things. You know, really embracing change, which is hard, and I think is especially hard in school because all of us, myself included, you've become dependent on the same ways of doing things. So now my own view is I think it can be better. I think it can be more personalized and more innovative, and hopefully we've learned how to be flexible over the past few months. But I think it's just human nature that embracing change is going to be hard.
How does this overlap with private sector education, as far as charter schools or anything of that? Or
charter schools are public.
Pardon.
Those are public.
Schools, anything like that?
So, as the commissioner said, we are hopeful that the independent schools and the private schools will adopt the same calendar. So, they're out of our purview per se. We hope they'll adopt the same calendar, and we are obviously, they're going to have to follow the same minimum health and safety requirements as per the Department of Health, and we'll help them too, just like we help private businesses.
Governor, can I ask
We have been giving them information all along, so we have a planned call with them to share the information and all the plans. So we have not left them out of any of our planning. So we will continue to work hand in hand.
Can I ask one unrelated question? Speaker Mattiello today said restaurants should be open to capacity right now, and that the state should enter phase 3 a lot faster. What's your reaction to that?
I don't agree. There's no, I don't support that. And I'm surprised he said it, because we talk constantly and he's been supportive. But listen, everybody's entitled to their own opinion. And I can imagine lots of people have their own opinions. We have a plan right now. We're doing great, right? Like, just look at the facts. Look at the data. Everything we've done has been based in data, science, expert advice. We're ahead of all of our neighbors. We're ahead of Massachusetts, Connecticut, and our neighbors. So I appreciate the view, but I think it's incorrect. It's not the right approach.
Governor, I spoke with a few restaurant and bar owners, and they're very eager to open up the bar area. In particular, I was at the brand new Brewed Awakenings location in Providence, and there's a few Brewed Awakenings locations through the state. Some have a bar, some don't, but I know there's a lot of patrons that want to get back, and I speak for all bars in Rhode Island. Is there a way to open it with even limitations?
So we're in phase 2 now, and the rules are as they are. And when we enter into phase 3, in early July, we will, assuming we're in as good shape as we are now, we will increase the limitations. But as long as we're in phase 2, we're not planning to make any changes. And the reason is because of the congregation. If you're sitting at a table for dinner, it's easier to have social distancing. Once you start to hang around a bar and congregate at a bar, it's difficult. So, as I've said all along, none of these are easy things. I'm asking Rhode Islanders to hang in there for a few more weeks. I believe it is in the best interest of all Rhode Islanders to continue to follow the rules.
Thank you.
For the Commissioner, I understand that certain resources in education can be deployed differently, like buses running more trips. What are you going to do about things where we already have acute shortages, such as special education teachers, and if they have to have more limited and smaller classes, how are you going to find those kinds of resources?
So I think that we've learned a lot during this process, and one of the things that we've learned is working across districts. Special education already has small class sizes. I don't think we're going to go any smaller than that at this point. So we're looking at different ways of providing support, and we're working cross sectors with private schools, with agencies, with different places that can help us with those hard to staff areas or areas that we feel that we need more support in.
Thank you, everyone.
Wait, can I make one announcement? Sorry, can I make one announcement?
Depends what it is.
She doesn't know, but she does. So we had our first summit this Saturday on race and equity across the state, and we're going to have our second, and we will give you the date and the governor's part of that conversation. We have moved very quickly, and you're going to see a lot of changes in the way that we educate our students. So I would like you to cover it as soon as we give you the date. Thank you.